What was Paul's thorn in the flesh? Biblical evidence seems to support the fact that Paul was plagued with very poor eyesight. Blinded temporarily at his conversion, Acts 9:8, the following scriptures may suggest his vision was never fully recovered. In Galatians 4:15, Paul states, "If it had been possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me." In closing of the same letter, he adds an unusual personal note. "You see how large a letter I have written unto you with mine own hand." Galatians 6:11. Both comments indicate a possible visual impairment. He also refers to Israel's unbelief as blindness in part is happened to Israel. Romans 11:25. In Acts 17:15, we are informed that those who escorted Paul brought him to Athens. A man as well-traveled as Paul was in his early life would scarcely need to be escorted anywhere, and yet we find that the great apostle is seldom without one or more traveling companions. Perhaps the most conclusive piece of evidence identifying Paul's thorn in the flesh is found in Acts 23:1-6. As Paul is defending himself before the Sanhedrin, the high priest Ananias commands for him to be smitten on the mouth. Paul rebukes him, but when he is informed that it was the high priest speaking, he promptly apologizes. "I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest." We are then told that Paul perceived that the council was part Pharisees and part Sadducees. It is absurd to think that Paul, raised as a Pharisee and schooled in the law, would need time to perceive the distinctive dress of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Jewish high priest. He would have recognized it immediately, unless his thorn in the flesh was poor eyesight. Paul makes the amazing claim that God gave him his thorn. It is clear from the context that Paul identified God as his thorn giver, not Satan. And he understood that God's purpose was to keep Paul humble and dependent on Christ's power. Paul states in Corinthians 12:7-10, "And lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. Concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I will boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecution, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. I am reminded daily that whatever brings you to your knees in weakness carries the greatest potential for your personal success and spiritual victory. Even though Paul could have listed many personal accomplishments, he chose to tell his audience what he saw as the key to experiencing a victorious life, accepting his weakness so that the power of Christ may rest upon him. So embrace your thorn and know God has given it for a higher purpose. Our agonizing thorns end up producing greater joy in us and causes us to be more effective, productive, and fruitful Christians. James 1:2 states, Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Paul was an amazing apostle. His passion to preach the gospel despite hardships, rejection, and physical abuse, beaten 3 times and whipped severely 5 times, is both astonishing and inspiring. The Apostle Paul became the most prolific writer of the New Testament, having written 14 books that were included in the Bible, more than half of the New Testament. He also holds the record as the most prolific biblical writer in the shortest time. Paul is regarded as one of the most influential figures of the Apostolic age. So could it be the thorn in his flesh? Was poor eyesight? You be the judge.